Okay, here we are, recording. So, hi everyone, and today we have an amazing person, Johnathan Gravel from Canada. Hi, Johnathan.
Hey, Shemi. Thanks for connecting with me to do this.
Yeah, pleasure. I know Johnathan since I think 2012, something like that.
11.
11, okay. Yeah, I actually never. We worked in the same office, but we never actually worked together.
That's true.
Yeah, we did socialize quite a bit together, though.
Yeah.
I let Johnathan tell his story, but yeah, I met Johnathan when I was working for Extrada. It came, well, you can tell that story, how you came to Australia. But we connected, I don't know why. And, and here we are again. What is it? 7 years later? 9 years later, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's very few people, I think, that we meet in our career or in our life that actually you connect. And like we didn't talk for about 5 or 6 years, and we started a conversation earlier this week, and
It was like it was yesterday. Yeah.
That's it. So there's not
Yeah.
many people that it actually happens during our lifetime as people, I think. So I'm glad to reconnect with you, Jonah. And yeah. So can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shemi. I feel the same way about you, by the way. Well, I grew up in Labrador. My father was a mechanical engineer. He worked at an iron ore mine most of my when I was growing up as a mechanical engineer, and I think that was a big influence on me for sure. On kind of obviously, I ended up as a mechanical engineer, and to be honest, that's not what I thought I was going to be when I went into university, but that's what I became. So it's probably a huge part of the reason why I chose that. I try to stay active as much as I can. I have 2 kids. For a while, that's a bit of a barrier, but I find ways to still go to the gym or play sports. Obviously, none of that is happening these days, but we still go out every day, and I'm sure I'll start up both of my main activities when the world gets back to normal. And I do try to give back. I think engineers, they're one of the, people talk about the main professions that kind of exist and try to give back and are important in the world. And always people say lawyers, doctors, and I think the next one is always engineers. Yeah. And I take that very seriously, and I do whenever opportunities arise and conditions are right, I try to do things where we can help out. And one of the things I've done a few times since I've lived here in Halifax is helped out with Ronald McDonald House, which is a charity that they set up these houses near hospitals, and when families have to go there and they have to go there for an extended period of time, they stay there. So it's a nice place to kind of do. So we've done a few meals there and helped out that way. I really liked that. Really enjoyed that. Anyway, so that's something I think is really important. So I went to university in New Brunswick, and that's where actually I met my wife that I have our 2 kids with right now. And after university, we both went and got jobs at a nickel mine, both of us. It was like incredible. She's a geologist, and it just seemed like, well, let's just both go there. We weren't engaged at the time, for the record, but then we became engaged, and we worked there for several years. And then we got a call that said, oh, there's this opportunity to work in Australia with Extrada Technology. And I was like, well, that sounds amazing. And I did a few interviews, flew down there. And actually, when I flew down there, I remember that whole process. It's just a big event in life. And I remember I went out to dinner with Dave Prescott and Natalie, yeah, anyways, it was really nice. And then I came back, and then we moved there.
Mm.
And I mean, before that, I was just an engineer at a mine, really. I did some co-ops at some before university, at some consulting firms and municipality, but really nothing. And then, or it was definitely managing projects and engineering stuff. And where I was working, I should say, was a mine, mill, smelter, and refinery facility. So I did get a good grasp of like the whole from rock to refined metal. I got that whole experience, which was really nice actually, and probably helped me in my whole career.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then went down there in Brisbane, and really, I think that was like such a stepping stone for me, because I got this opportunity to travel everywhere and get exposed to all these different projects. And what I really loved about it was going to a site or learning about a site, and this is what they do at this site. This is what they do at another site, and seeing what everybody does, how they process the metals, different ways, the different technologies they employ, the different ways that they get from point A to point B. It just gives you such a big perspective on how things can be done. I really enjoyed my time there. And then obviously afterwards going to Vancouver to continue with them until, that's one of those things in careers, I guess. You never know what's going to happen. And then our office was closed down. So then right after that, I worked at a diamond mine. And that was a fly-in, fly-out gig in Northern Ontario. I really enjoyed learning how they process diamonds, because I had no idea before. I mean, it's so different from hard rock and soft rock, So that was pretty cool. And the fly-in, fly-out experience, it was my first time doing that for an extended period. I only did it for 6 months, but, for a while, I guess. And then after that, I got this opportunity that came up that was like, to me, it was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, honestly. There's this new project in BC. It was a brand new mine opening, like a whole new facility. They didn't have, they were in, they had just completed feasibility, and they needed to bring on a team to go through basic engineering, detailed engineering, and construction. And I was like, yes. So I was actually the lead mechanical engineer for this project. It's called the Ajax project. It was a copper gold mine outside of Kamloops, and it was like, it's like after you've worked for a while in the mining industry and you've seen a lot of different things. You see good things, you see bad things.
Yeah.
You're trying to fix. You're like, why did they do that? I had this opportunity to start at a new mine, to be like, how do you want that? How would you want that? And it was just like, well, actually, we should not do this. Let's try doing this, for the whole everything. It was just like, I was so excited for this opportunity. I was like, I couldn't believe, it came up, and it landed on my plate, and I was doing it. So I did that for a while. But then after we finished basic engineering, but the price of copper wasn't where it needed to be at the time. Maybe it will be one day. Things didn't work out. They didn't end up getting all their permits. The project was put on hold, really.
Okay.
So then I was looking again, and
it's actually very common in the mining industry. Things are being put on hold.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, it's all by, what's the price of a certain metal at the time?
Yeah.
Like, that's all the time. It's like, what's the price of nickel? What's the price of copper? Oh, copper's up. Let's start that project again. And then copper goes down. Okay, it's like constantly, or mines go on care and maintenance, and then back to production again. It's constant. Demand, supply. What does the world need?
Yeah.
I guess everyone's seeing that. What?
Yeah. What's the next step was?
Well, after that, I was really doing some soul searching. For a while, I mean, not really. Like, I was looking, and it was tough to leave the industry. There was this opportunity with Gold Corp, and it was with Mexico, a job in Mexico. I think it was Penasquito, which Extrata Technology had employed some technologies there as well. So I was like, oh, well, you know, I know about the isomill, and like I was trying to use that leverage to try and help me there. And anyways, it didn't end up going anywhere. But at the same time, my wife was like, well, she was pregnant with our first son, and she said, well, let's try and find something back home, which there's no mining here really. So you know, I applied to a job at a utility, and you know, electrical utility, and it was a job managing projects at some combined cycle power plants, which really, to me, this was like I had learned about them in school, but I didn't really have a lot of experience in specifically these power plants. Like, I mean, I learned about the different elements like pumps, piping, you know, that you learn the basics for sure, and I used that stuff. But it was, to me, it almost felt like starting right back out after university again. And my first boss I got, and this was in 2016, Deborah McClellan, she like was so good at like trying to teach me to the whole industry. She actually set me up with this online course that took me through everything on a combined cycle power plant and I spent like 2 months on this thing, just going through every little element, problems that they have, you know, issues that arise with it, and how it all works. And it was amazing. So that was really good. And then I did that for several years. And now I just transitioned over to hydro department with an affiliate that we had. So that's been, again, another learning. The learning curve is a little bit less steep. At least we're still making electricity, so I get all that side of things. Now it's just getting the hydro turbines and generators, which are very different than combined cycle. You know, learning about how those operate and that. So yeah.
Well, mate, that's quite an amazing career, and I'm taking notes. Like, I have so many questions. It's quite amazing. I don't know if an hour will be enough. maybe should have a beer or something. That's wow. I actually didn't know you've been doing all of those things, and so I think there's a couple of things I wanna talk about that actually might help other people that, you know, looking. So what year you graduated? Just so we get an idea.
2008.
2008. So you're only 12 years into your career.
Yeah.
And you achieved so much, and you've done so many cool things. It's quite remarkable, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I applied to this job, when I came to come back out to Nova Scotia, I made this list of projects I had worked on, just to kind of, like, what have you done? Like, you know, you make a list of where you worked, but I also had a separate list of like projects I've worked on, because especially in the mining industry, you know, you say the name of a mine, and people are like, oh, I know that one. I've worked on this, or I worked on that. So I listed out all the ones I had worked on, and it's actually I remember after I got this job, my boss was like, that's a really good list. You should keep that, and keep, you know, because it's quite, you know, she was kind of saying it was something, which was really nice to hear.
Yeah, and I just recognize, and I, you know, validate you that you actually had an amazing career to date. And this is only the first 12 years. Oh my God. What's the next 12 years going to have?
Well, who knows? Thanks, Jimmy. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And one thing I really liked in your story, that you enjoyed the cross nurturing. So we start between different mines. So you went and see what they do in one mine, and you see what they do in another mine, and you take the best things of all of them. And I have a feeling about you that you actually cross nurtured, because I know your character. You probably couldn't help yourself but telling one what the other does that it's better than them, or the other way. Is that happen, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's received not always the best, but sometimes, you know, people hear a good idea and they're like, that does sound better. Like, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
You know, in so many different ways, Yeah, you know, maybe it could be a layout of a processing area, or like a capacity of a crane, or crane. What can we do? You know, just sometimes talking to people about how are you going to do something. I remember there was this crusher we were designing at the Ajax plant, and we had to figure out how we were going to maintain it. And this is such a big thing that happens when mines are designed, you know, and they you know, in a little bit, you got to keep the economics in mind. You want to build it for as little as possible, where it's still you can still run the place.
Yeah.
And maintenance sometimes isn't always a part of that. But I remember we spent so long talking about what crane we would put there, what reach you would have, and what kind of area the guys would have to work in to do the maintenance on this crusher. And it's amazing. Like, you know, you got to keep the dollars in mind, but I think sometimes in those projects people forget about, if you don't spend the money up front, it's going to get spent almost right after you start, because as soon as people start working there, they're like, we can't do this in these conditions. You're going to spend it anyways, you know.
Yeah.
So that was yeah.
From my experience doing those things, the capex people, so the people who invest, you know, put the capital money, they actually don't care about the maintenance money. They actually don't care. And us as engineers, we actually have the responsibility to do it, like you said, keeping the money, the capex budget intact, but still keep in mind the people on the ground that will maintain it for like sometimes 40 years or more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that if I can say, you know, Extrada Technology did really well, really considering all aspects of the life of their equipment, in the design stage. Yeah. And you know, the cost, we kind of went into details a bit, but the cross nurturing between different circles, I call it circles of people, you know, and that's really what we're doing now. Also, we let people tap into your experience and my experience to nurture themselves or their circle of influence. You know? So that's really cool, I think.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, you bring some companies, they bring experts into their office and just to listen to them talk, you know. And we are experts in what we do, and you know, people listening to us talking now, they go, I probably can use this. And it is the nature of, it's not the nature, but it's, we need to decide to be that kind of people. And I know for you and me, it's easy decision to cross nurture. That makes sense?
I mean, helping out fellow, you know, your people you work with all the time is so huge. That's one thing I've become more cognizant of, I'd say more recently, maybe because as you progress through your career, you feel like, you know, especially when you see the younger people that you're working with, you got to help them out. You got to give them some advice. I've noticed that a lot more recently, that it's like a responsibility in a way. You know, you see them kind of struggling on something. I can remember actually before this COVID-19 stuff, in the office, I had given a task to a younger employee, and I just kind of was like, yeah, just go do it. And like, you know, I'm like doing, you know, I manage many projects, you know, and I'm just doing a lot of different things. And then kind of came back with some questions and like answered them and keep going back. And then I said, you know, I'm not doing this right. So I just went and I said, okay, I'm gonna sit down with you, and we're just gonna do this together, you know, and just kind of go through the whole thing. And sometimes you take like 3 hours, something, you know, like a long time to just talk about a lot of different things, because sometimes just giving the answer doesn't tell the whole story, and you got to really be like, why am I telling you to do this? Well, you know, and you got to, and it's important to put the time in. This is what I'm starting to, this is something that's really new to me, that I need to kind of spend that time with the younger people and not just answer the questions. I got to really lay out why, and the whole
Yeah.
why things are done the way they are almost.
Oh, I love this. I love this because we really do need to, like, we need to teach the younger generation how to think rather than how to do. With another engineer yesterday, and it was completely new for him, but not new, but he didn't have the language around it. He just knew something is going on. And I'm glad you're tapping into that, realizing that we actually need to spend time with other people to not just to give them a fish, not just to solve problem X, but really help them to start thinking for themselves, give it a go, and come back with, I've done this and this and this, it still doesn't work. What am I doing wrong? And help them with, I love this question to ask people is, tell me about your thinking. Why did you do that? Not from a blaming point of view, but what's the thinking behind the action? And a lot of people go, and they really don't think about their thinking.
That's a good, actually, I like that. I'm going to use that, Shemi.
Yeah,
Tell me about your thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. What's the thinking about your actions? It's not why did you do this with a blaming voice, but it's with a nurturing voice of, tell me about your thinking. What was the thinking behind that? Yeah. What was the other thing I want to talk to? Oh, so many things. And you said a few times, when you describe your career, it was once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
How these things happen to you? What's your thinking?
What's my thinking? I mean, a lot of my friends have told me in my life that I'm very lucky, and sometimes I like take offense to it, but it probably is true. Like, I mean, when I was in northern Manitoba working in that nickel mine, to get that opportunity down in Australia, like, to me, there's so many people that they could have went with, and it happened to be me. And then even when I was at that diamond mine, and then a diamond mine, and then the job at the Ajax opened up, it was like, how did I get that? And even again, with coming to a utility, like, why did they take this chance on me? I mean, I had project management, I had engineering skills, I had no experience in the industry, but they took a chance on me, and it's really helped me grow so much. I can't, sometimes I don't know why I've been lucky this way. And I guess,
what do you think? Yeah.
I for sometimes on these jobs, I'm like, should I apply to this? Do I feel like I have a chance? Sometimes it doesn't feel like I would be the best candidate, but I put my application in. I really do a good job in trying to put together the cover letters. And I feel like if I can get an interview, I've got a very good chance just to talk through it with somebody. When I meet someone, make that connection, answer the questions as best as you can. You kind of, nothing's out of reach, I think, is kind of sometimes what I think when I apply for these things that I get sometimes.
Yeah. I love your answer, because you actually have no idea.
I don't.
You don't. Can I have a stab?
Yeah?
Yeah. Because that's the same reason that I asked you to do this interview. It's the same reason that I think we connected to begin with. Is something in your attitude and something in your care factor is what really draws people to you. I'm not. Yeah. Anyway, it's also, so when I'm talking to employers, they're not looking for technical skills. They're looking for attitude. They're looking for the care factor. They're not looking for people that come to collect a paycheck. And I trust this actually helps everyone that's listening to this interview. And you are a living example for someone with such a positive attitude, but you don't even know that. Because it's intrinsic within you. It's probably your upbringing and the influence of your parents and whatever. You actually care. You don't, whatever you do, you don't go just to pick up a paycheck. You actually go to contribute, to do the best you can. And that's why people take a chance of you. That's why you get opportunities that probably people with more technical skills than you can do it, but they come to collect the paycheck. That makes sense?
It does, yeah. Well, that's very kind of you to say. And I think that there probably is some truth to that. Yeah, for sure. It comes down to, you know, even when I came.
Hold on, you're doing something that a lot of engineers are doing.
What?
You actually minimizing what I said about you. So it is a compliment, but it's also true. You know, I'm not, you know, trying to look nice towards you. It's actually something that employers value, you know? So please don't minimize what I said, which is you're minimizing yourself.
Well, I won't, okay? I'll accept it.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you know, almost, I think resumes, you know, are changing a lot. I know my brother, my younger brother graduated just last year from mechatronics engineering, and he showed me some resumes that him and his colleagues were using, and it is very different from what, you know, I had even been using. So I kind of used some of their ideas, but anyways,
what changed in the resume? What do you mean?
Definitely formats. It's completely like, I just remember it used to just be like name, phone number, email, and like, you know, education experience. But now it's the layouts. You're putting a picture of yourself on there. You're using all these colors and laying out, you know, facts about yourself, and I think there is a focus on other things than just besides education experience. It's more like others, like soft skills, like people skills, like communication and what kind of person you are, and it's very different. I think it's probably because, like you say, employers are looking for more than just where you go to school and what have you done since then. Like they're looking for more of like, who are you?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of putting your picture up or colors. So I don't want people that listen to this kind of take take this one person's experience, because it's what we talk about here, people kind of might go and do. So just what I tell people is there's no right or wrong way to do your resume. I do accept that employers looking for the soft skills, definitely. And there's other ways to present it. For example, actually talk about, like you talked about volunteering, you know, that is, you know, a big indicator for, you know, soft skills, which, you know, you care about people, you care about your community. Definitely, you know, talks very loudly. The problem with colors and the photo that I found, the picture, is you might actually get judged for having it or not having it. I don't know. There's no right or wrong answers. Yeah.
I can see what you're saying there. That's a good point. I mean, really, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, when people see a picture, sometimes even before they see anything, before they read anything, they may have biased opinions about someone. Yeah.
So you do want them to actually read your experience, qualification, your soft skills, definitely. Yeah. And a lot of the times they look into the language of your cover letter. Is it me oriented, or is it is it taking oriented or giving oriented? So what we talked about before, is that person coming to pick up a paycheck, or is he there to contribute from his knowledge and experience? And that's, you know, the intricate language. Yeah, I don't want to get into resume writing techniques. It's not the point.
Yeah.
But definitely, what did we talk about before? I can't remember. Something. Soft skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, employers looking for soft skills rather than to complement technical skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was asking you for what do you think why you got those opportunities, once in a lifetime opportunities. Um, and you said a few times you used, so I'm picking up on your language. So you used a lot of passive voice when you're saying this thing landed on my plate and
Yeah.
I don't know how I got this. So it really, it means when I'm listening to this, it means it told me that you don't know why people choose you. And that's why I kind of told you that it's about your character. About your,
Yeah. And I mean, in a way, sometimes when I feel like when I'm giving my resume in a way, it feels like you're bragging.
mate, I teach people how to brag because
Yeah.
well, especially, you not brag to anyone, but definitely so this, you know, this interview is celebrating you, where you achieve, what do you achieve, where you got in 12 years, and you become a role model for many other engineers. Um, Brag, feel free to brag. Go, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It is, in the right time right time, or like with the right people. You not brag with people on the street, but we want to brag with our inner circle that I actually had a win,
Mm.
and we shouldn't feel shitty about it. It should actually be. We want our inner circle to celebrate with us.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
I talked in one of my morning huddles. Is brag. Tell me your the highlight of your whatever. I can't remember what I said.
Yeah.
I know it looks a bit weird for you. Sounds a bit weird for you to brag.
Yeah. It's not my nature for sure, but yeah,
Yeah,
something I need to get better at probably.
yeah. And it's not a skill, but it's a self-care mechanism that we need to learn. So
Mm.
we've been conditioned not to do it. Like when your boys first time went to the toilet themselves, did you clap? Did
Yeah.
you happy with them? You
Yeah.
don't do it anymore. I don't think so. Well, I don't get clapped when I go to the toilet now. So there's time and place for everything.
Yeah.
And in this group of professional engineers, we want to celebrate one another. If we won't celebrate one another, who will?
Mm. That's true.
Yeah. So I know it's not part of your character, and that's why kind of we're still hanging out.
It's true. Hey, listen, Shami, there's something, I don't know if you're going to ask this, but going off the questions I wanted to put
Yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
make sure that I got a chance to say it.
Yeah.
One thing I always tell, like whenever I meet engineers either coming out of school or just out of school or maybe still in school and going to graduate soon, you're like, oh, what should I do? I'm looking here and there and stuff. I hear a lot of times, sometimes they're having trouble finding work where they are, or they can't, yeah, they're having trouble finding something. And to me, like when I graduated in New Brunswick, I got my job. It was probably 4,000 kilometers away,
Yeah.
like something like that. So what I just want to say to people is just, if you're not finding something, you just got to expand your circle. Like there is a job out there. It may not be exactly where you are right now. So what I always tell people is just go to where the work is, wherever it is, especially at the start, because you need that experience.
Yeah.
It's so crucial. Especially, like, because sometimes you meet engineers and it's like they never went into the profession, or they just couldn't get their start. So to me, and it's because they just stayed where they are and they didn't go find a role somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think right at the beginning of your career, it's very important. Go travel, go to where the work is. So I always like to say that too.
Yeah. That's really good advice, mate. Thank you for actually sharing that. Yeah.
Mm.
I agree, and that's what I was going to take the conversation is when you got distracted that you actually nailed once in a lifetime opportunities a few times, and things just, like you said, fell on your lap. So you did things not necessarily with awareness. What I'm encouraging people is to have awareness around how they conduct themselves and what jobs they're looking for. So I encourage people um, to look for jobs, to look for companies rather than the job. Look for companies that have values alignment with who they are. You know, so for example, how do you know what if you have values alignment with a company? Is those companies that you take extra effort to write your cover letter. You don't know why, but you're going, I just want to work for them. I don't know why. You know, you go to the website and you like the colors, you like the photos they put. When you read their, values and vision and mission, you go, I dig it. You know, and that's how you know when you have some kind of values alignment with that company. And that values, it goes towards the attitude. So the technical skills are not as important. And those companies will, for some reason, those people would align with you and they wouldn't know why. They look at your resume and they'll go, something about this guy kind of feels right. They assign for values alignment, mind you, if they bother reading resumes and not the computer reading. But the point is, when you work for a company that you have values alignment with, the job is so much easier and you actually come up like you've been working for the vision, for the mission of the company, not necessarily for the paycheck. Of course we need a paycheck, but when you work for Extrada, what I heard from people is things that I can verbalize now as you working, you have alignment with the vision and the mission of the company, which was, excellence and long-term view, like talking about maintenance and those things. So definitely, get a job that you can pay your bills, you get experience, and so have sustainability around your, about your life. But as soon as you can, look for the values alignment with the company you're working for. You get that? Is that making sense?
Oh yeah, and I think you'll be much happier in your career if that is the case.
I'll tell you what, you're actually happy when it's like chicken and egg. What do you need to be happy to have a good career, or you need to have a good career to be happy? I don't know. Oh, we're going deep now. I need red wine.
Yeah. It's like, what do you get first, I guess?
Yeah. Well, again, the passive voice, I'm just speaking on your language again, what you get or what you actually create. You get that?
Yeah.
So when you apply for companies, you don't know why, but it feels good to write your cover letter for them. That company probably would be very good for your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Getting pretty deep here.
Definitely need red wine. Definitely. It's before lunch here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Wow, we covered a lot. I lost track of time. What other questions? Okay. So yeah, opportunities. What do you see as one of the biggest opportunities for advancing our profession, Jonah?
Not a very easy question for sure.
It's a conversation starter.
Yeah. One thing I think about when I hear that, I mean, especially like an opportunity, it's like futuristic, what's coming up and coming. I think of the new grads. I think of the people who are coming into the profession. It seems like when I was graduating, or even 10 or 15 years before me, there was a lot less engineers graduating on a regular basis, but now there is a lot more engineers graduating. And this is the future of the profession. This is where, in 10 years, these people will be where we are, and then the next. But these people, it's important for them to now, like, and I think they really are, like, grads I feel like the grads I've met now are way more professional, or way more aware that they need to be a certain way um, than I remember being when I graduated, which is great to see. But the opportunity is for them to go out and show that professionalism in and out of work when they start their careers. This is going to be who represents engineers. These are the engineers. Like, this is the new generation, and I think for them to do a great job of being professional in society. And one, I always like, I always put, whenever I'm, even if you go on my LinkedIn, or you go on, when I send an email for work or anything, I always put my name, PNG, PMP, but I always put my credentials after my name, and especially PNG always comes first. And I think that's a big thing. It's showing who you're really, when you're putting that, you're not just putting like some letters after your name, and everybody knows what professional engineer stands for and what it means. You're telling people kind of, this is what, when you sign a letter that way and you give a recommendation, or you say, this is what we're going to do, or this is what we're not going to do, that is adding so much to your statement instead of just your name, and more people need to do that. And a lot of people do, for sure. And I would say, depending on where you are, maybe in the world, it's done more or less on a regular basis. But that says a lot, putting that after your name.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We talked about it when we talked earlier this week. You have your ring on?
Yeah.
Show me
Yeah.
the ring.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I always wear it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. So that's a professional engineering in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you told me about it when, years ago, and it's so impressive. I was so impressed with what it actually means in Canada to be a professional engineer. It's almost like a social status, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. People know. And like, I will be out at the grocery store paying for something, and somebody will see it and they'll be like, oh, you're an engineer. Oh, what kind of engineer are you? Where do you work? What's your line of discipline? And yeah, it's definitely like, people take notice. And I'll just give that little bit of history to people who don't know. So we wear the rings on our pinkies, and it's important that it goes on the pinky of the hand that you sign with, so that when you're signing something, you remember. And basically, it started in the 1920s. A bridge collapsed in Quebec. A lot of lives were lost. Actually, it was during construction, so they were building from both sides, and before it met, it collapsed. So people were working on the bridge when it happened. Anyways, terrible story. I mean, they didn't, if it could just magically appear all at once, it would have been fine. But you have to consider other situations, and obviously during construction they didn't take all the consideration they should have. So it's just actually they took some steel from that, and the first rings were made from it, and basically they wanted people to remember that when, as an engineer, when you sign off on things, there's a lot at stake. And so now when we graduate, you take like almost like an oath when you put the ring on, and you're taking the public's interest is like our first interest, like the safety of people is number one, and how important it is to be honest, and to not do something you don't know how to do, or go do something that's outside of what you know or are capable of doing, and kind of a whole bunch of things. But that's basically what it melts down to. Yeah.
That's really cool. The engineer I talked to yesterday, we talked for an hour about the culture of safety. If you asked me a week ago if I can be engaged in a conversation about safety for an hour, I would say no. But that was so cool, and that goes back to what you're saying. It's not just the ring, what it actually what it symbolized. It's like I said before, it's the thinking behind what we do. So it's not just the signing, but we need to think about our responsibility. You know, we need to think
Yeah.
about the safety of the public. We have a responsibility, and I love the culture that in Canada. It's like every time you wear that ring, it's on your mind. Even subconsciously, it's on your mind.
Yeah.
I like what you said about the story that actually there's sharp corners and they wear off with experience on the ring.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, isn't? Oh,
I
huh?
guess just over time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Anyway, there's no
yeah.
story.
I mean, I got my ring brand new, and maybe it's hard to tell, but yeah, when it first got it, the ridges were quite sharp, but now they're starting to wear quite a bit. Actually, I haven't really looked at it in a while, but
Yeah,
anyways, my dad's ring is almost completely. You can't even tell it ever had ridges, really.
yeah.
He wore it for yeah, I don't know, 40 years or something. So
Wow. Yeah, yeah. So going back to the culture um our well, first thing, the culture of actually being, like you said, PNG, or being, and that's something I going on about quite a bit. Get registered. Get your. I think in Canada it's even a license. You have to have a license, isn't it?
yeah,
We don't have
yeah.
that in Australia yet. There's even not
Oh,
requirement to be registered yet. So it shows you the difference in culture at the moment. And Australia is
yeah.
a little bit behind. Yeah.
I mean, every country's in a different spot, and like even in the States, they're in a different spot as well. The big protection we have in Canada is to call yourself an engineer. You have to have the license. So there's certain wording that you can or you can't use, and you could get in trouble if you say, oh, I'm an engineer, when you're in fact not. So the profession could
Wow.
basically tell you to stop doing that and then take legal action for you to
Yeah.
stop doing that.
So that's so good. That's beautiful. Like the people that actually um, given the right or the privilege to look after the profession culture, they do for the
Mm.
benefit of the profession, but also the benefit of the public. It's like you separate yourself. There's a line in the sand. If you're not, let's call it just registered, okay? Because in every country it's different. If you're not
Yeah.
registered, like you said, you can't be called an engineer.
Yeah.
There's a power for it, and there's a separate. Might sound a bit sexist, but separate the men from the boys. Are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
serious about your profession or not?
Yeah. And actually, even like I remember in BC when I was a member there, the monthly newsletter, they would always, if there was any infractions like along in the province, they they publish them. They would say like this person, this engineer in this city or town had his license revoked because he did this or whatever, and they'll list out all the instances,
Yeah.
and this is like put out to the public, so everybody knows. So it's kind of a big deal.
So yeah, there's actually consequences not to behave
Yeah.
in a non-professional way.
Yeah. I mean, it's public knowledge then, and everybody sees it. So
Yeah.
you can imagine those people like,
Wow, it's amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, like the guy I was talking with yesterday, he was saying that he's been teaching young engineers how to think about safety, and one of the guys told him back, "She'll be right, mate. It's the saying in Australia. It's like, don't worry about it. She'll be
Oh
right."
yeah.
Like no,
Yeah.
and he got really upset about it. Fair enough. He's got like 40
Yeah.
years experience in like nuclear plants, which he can't budge about safety. And that young engineer saying to him, "Don't worry about it," really, got him up on his high horse, which is it's awesome.
Yeah.
And what you said about the newsletter in Australia, because the culture is so different, it might be seen as shaming. But
Mm.
in Canada, in BC, it's actually an important part of the culture. It's like we're looking after our reputation. That's how I
Yeah.
see it from outside. I don't know.
Oh, that's exactly it. Basically, it's just saying that because when somebody has a license, when somebody has that a stamp, kind of the term we use a lot,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that there's some credibility there. So if there's people that have the stamp that aren't being credible or doing things that they shouldn't be doing, have made huge mistakes and are being negligent, then you got to take it away.
Yeah.
So that's, if you don't take it away from those people, then the whole status loses some credibility, like everybody
Yeah.
does, right?
Yeah. That's it. The status, the profession suffers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Wow. I would love to create that here in Australia. Create it anywhere in the world. That's why we have in our um, yeah. So definitely, um, it's part of my mission to promote that kind of culture. Um, and sounds like the Canadian culture is, on it on so many
Yeah,
levels. Yeah.
it's good for sure. I really, people are, one thing that I guess critics, I guess, would say, that's kind of too bad, and maybe one day, like right now, every province, or as you guys would say, state, has their own licensing and body body that would manage it. So it
Mhm.
would be nice if there was like a countrywide or a federal level of jurisdiction, which there isn't yet, really. Every province does their own thing.
Yeah.
So it's, but that's, it's still pretty good for sure. And if you're licensed in one province, it's pretty easy to bring it over,
Mhm.
because they've got all your records and everything. So you just kind of say, hey, I want to go practice in this, I'm moving here, or I'm doing a project there. So you just give them, they kind of talk to each other, and you just pay some money, and you get your license.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad that way. But yeah, it would be nice if it was like we're all on the same page as a country, but
Yeah. So yeah, one of the things I really like doing is when people talk about the responsibility of the government or whatever. I like taking to the individual's responsibility, because it's easy to blame, the government. So I just
Mm.
wonder, in the professional engineering culture in Canada, if you see, and you're a professional engineer, if you see something or someone is doing the wrong thing, do you have any tools or any things that you can take individual action to change that? You get my question?
Oh yeah, and I would say, and part of it is for first thing, I depending on what it was, I definitely would, um, and in a way you feel like because like you're a part of the, you have your stamp, you work so hard to get it. If I see somebody maybe using a title I know that they shouldn't use because they don't have their stamp yet, or um, trying to do some calculations that I know that they don't have the experience to accurately do, I 100% step in, because I don't want uh, the profession to lose credibility. I don't want that person to be um, basically putting something out there that they haven't really properly earned.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, first, I would definitely approach the individual. Like I've worked with people before who have put something like a title underneath their name, um, and told them, well, you can't do that. You have to change it. Maybe they put something like project engineer and they think it's okay, but you have to put either project engineer in training or something along that line, um, unless you have your stamp. It says a lot more if you just say engineer, like, oh, I'm an engineer. Well, are you though? So that's kind of,
Mhm.
and then the whole, if I think somebody's trying to do something that's outside of what they're capable of, I mean, that's almost like just how you operate as a professional. I would definitely step in and say, maybe we need to bring someone else in, get a consultant, or get somebody else to do it. But that's almost like how you do your job, more so. But yeah, I mean, depending if it was a safety issue, 100%, would just, yeah. But usually it's, not very often calculations we do, or, well, I shouldn't say that. No, it kind of depends, I guess.
Mm. yeah, I guess the message is we all have a responsibility for um, the reputation of the profession, don't we?
Absolutely.
Every day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Wow, that yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. See what else, what other notes I put on. When we talked about when you send your message to young engineers, I really like that message. So I took another. I actually, when I talk to a lot of young engineers here in Australia and Queensland, a lot of them have double degrees, double majors, and I love it. Like when I done my mechanical engineering, it was like I was just struggling to study one degree. I don't know how they do two. It's just amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's very common. And I love that going back to cross nurturing of different disciplines and different, and even a lot of them doing like engineering and I don't know, accounting or engineering and law, and going, wow, this is awesome. Like you get different perspectives. You know, that
Yeah.
we, in our generation, it's like we just learn how to do engineering, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it's also that attitude of the millennials. A lot of people kind of bash them for being, you know, self-centered or whatever. To be honest, I never seen that. I don't know about your experience, but all the millennials I'm talking about. Are you a millennial? You're not a millennial.
I think I'm on the right on the borderline. I think I was born in '84, and I don't know, it's right around there that people say it's either, but it's really, if I am, I would be like the oldest one, but
Okay. Maybe we should talk about they were like Gen Y or something. So
yeah,
yeah, the young people, I don't know, the young people that, 20-year-old now when I talk to them, they're
yeah,
actually very responsible. They're actually waiting for the opportunity to prove themselves. They surprisingly, not surprisingly, I shouldn't say that. In contrast to the way they've been presented in the media, they're actually very proactive, very, hardworking. At least the ones I kind of talk to. Um, and, they're eager to learn. They actually have very low ego compared to old people like us. I'm much older than you, so I don't know. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm Gen X, um,
Nice.
yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. What's your experience with the younger engineers from that, attitude point of view?
Yeah, I would say generally eager to learn,
Yeah.
which is always great to see. And I actually right now I've got there's a co-op student I'm working with that I'm lining up work for him, like something to do. And honestly, he just is like really wants to like sink his teeth in things, which is really great to see. So yeah, I mean, I don't like to generalize on a group of people, from a generation anyways, but
Yeah.
you're going to see both of it. I would say there are some people who are a certain way, there are some people who are another way, but yeah, from the people I've worked with generally, really great to work with. And I always like working with younger people and, teaching them about whatever I can.
And then learning from them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, they're
Different.
honestly, this is what makes me feel old when I get to work. Yeah. They're generally better at sometimes certain software applications. Where they're fresher out of school, sometimes there's certain calculations that that it's like, oh yeah, give that to them because they just kind of did it in school and you can do a check or whatever. But I mean, really, the big thing in calculations is assumptions. Not actually doing the calculation, but it's like, what did you assume? That's what you need the experience for.
Yes.
What are your assumptions? Not did you put the denominator? That doesn't matter anymore. That's all done by
Computer can do that.
yeah. But it's like, what did you assume? It's like, that's the big one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It's like, and that was my disclaimer. It's like the way they've been seen in the media or presented in the media, and my personal experience with individuals. Definitely completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We pretty much about to finish. Any last thoughts or messages to engineers out there?
One thing also wanted to say was when I came over, and I talked about this a little bit when I went from the mining industry to utilities. This was a pretty huge, to me, it was like a quantum leap, and I am now really glad that I did it. And I feel like I've grown a whole lot by having two very different industries behind me. I would say don't be afraid to make that leap to anyone. And I guess you as well, Shemi, really. You switched from working at XT to doing the coaching and the helping people out. These are very different functions, and I'm sure you can attest as well. Like, you grow so much when you change like what you're doing, where you work, like the industry you're working in almost. Like, so I would encourage people to do that.
Yeah, step out of our comfort zone, definitely.
Yes, it's so important. Yeah,
because we do take our experience with us. We're not forgetting about it. It's part of it's embedded in us, our experience.
Yeah,
really good advice, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. On that note, we'll say goodbye for now. You can go back to your Friday night routine.
Oh yeah, bedtime. Yeah. see when the kids are gonna wake up. But yeah, Shemi, thanks for reaching out. It was really nice to connect with you again.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have to wait another 7 years before we talk again. It was really nice.
Yeah, same, mate. Really good to hang out with you, and let's do it after lunch so I can have a wine.
All right.
Cheers, man. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
See you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Okay.